Did you know that during the first half of the 20th century, the most dangerous place in America was New York City? Gangs ran the streets. Bootlegging gangs, arsonists, murderers, and thieves lurked around every corner. And even the police seemed to be on the take. But at night, the city truly belonged to the Mafia. Welcome to Crime Never Sleeps, where today we're going to explore Mafia Nights. Now, this is you want the type of crime series that gives you those wacky gangster movies with characters like Bugsy Malone or the Pink Panther. This is the real deal. A time when cops were getting made, when Tommy guns rattled the skyscrapers and when mobsters were so brazen they would kill people in broad daylight. The first episode is available now on CuriosityStream, and it's a hell of a ride. This 5-part docuseries takes us back to a time when there were more than 300 mafia families in the United States. They may seem like your average Italian-American family at first, but don't be fooled. These guys are running gambling rings, prostitution, and bootlegging operations. They're extorting local businesses and controlling the docks, racketeering, murder. The list goes on. By the end of World War I, the mobs had become so powerful that they were filling the pockets of politicians and law enforcement officials, making them untouchable. The first episode takes us through Prohibition and how that affected the power structure of the United States. We meet Charles Lucky Luciano, Frank Castellano, and Vito. They're young up-and-comers looking to make a name for themselves. When the cops can't control the flow of alcohol into the country, they turn to the mob. It's easier to collect bribes from organized criminals and try to prosecute them. So the government looks the other way while these men grow their fortunes. There's Max Fish, one of the biggest bootleggers of all time. He operates out of Canada and has bribed almost everybody, including J. Edgar Hoover himself. His product is pure and he makes a lot of money. The problem is the American mobsters want a cut and they willing to use murder to get it. We see the underbelly of New York City come alive in the streets. We hear from historians who tell us how the power structure worked. We learn about the 5 families and their hierarchy, and we see archival footage that brings it all together. If you watch just one episode of this series, let it be episode 1. It has an amazing introduction to a world you didn't think still existed. While we've chosen the first episode for you to watch tonight, we highly recommend checking out the rest of the episodes as well. Episode 2 is called Bloody Wars. We learn about the Castellano War and how Lucky Luciano used violence and intimidation to take over the most lucrative rackets in New York City. Episode 3 is called The Commission. This is the story of how the Mafia became a business and how the 5 families controlled everything from drugs to construction. Episode 4 is called The Fall, and it asks about how the Mafia lost its power in the 70s and 80s due to government investigations and the defection of some of its. Finally, in episode 5, you will learn how the Mafia survived and what kind of influence they have today. CuriosityStream has thousands of fascinating documentaries just like this one. Every time I open the app, I find something new and interesting to watch. In addition to Crime Never Sleeps, they have the Alaska Triangle, Dinosaur, Death Valley, and Expedition Bigfoot. They also have a huge selection of classic shows like Friends, Seinfeld, and The Twilight Zone. CuriosityStream is the best streaming service for those who love nonfiction content. They have everything from nature documentaries to true crime and everything in between. CuriosityStream is also super affordable. For less than the price of a cup of coffee per month, you can get access to thousands of hours of incredible content you can watch on your TV, phone, tablet, or computer. CuriosityStream is available everywhere. If you sign up using our link, you'll get a free trial. Now let's head back to New York in the 1920s, where organized crime was growing faster than ever before. As the saying goes, crime never sleeps, and neither does the night. In the second episode of Crime Never Sleeps, we learn about the bloody turf wars that erupted in New York City as different gangs fought for control of the lucrative bootlegging and gambling racket. It was a violent time, a time when men could be killed for wearing the wrong color shirt or associating with the wrong people. The rivalries were intense, and the violence was extreme. Men were gunned down in cold blood, mutilated and thrown into the East River. Entire families were wiped out, leaving widows and orphans in their wake. But it wasn't just the gangsters who were caught up in the bloodshed. Ordinary citizens were caught in the crossfire. As bullets flew and bombs exploded, people were killed simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Despite the carnage, the mobsters kept coming back for more. They were driven by greed, power, and a thirst for revenge. The violence continued unabated until the police finally stepped in. But even the police were not immune to the mob's influence. Many were bribed or threatened, while others turned a blind eye to the atrocities taking place right before them. As the bodies piled up, the city's residents grew increasingly desperate for justice. They demanded that the authorities crack down on the mobsters and bring them to heel. But the mobsters were too powerful and the authorities were too weak. The violence continued unabated until the Castellamarese War came to an end. With Lucky Luciano's murder of his rivals, the bloody turf wars that had gripped the city for years finally came to a halt. But the cost was staggering. Hundreds of lives had been lost and the city was left reeling from the violence. The question was, could New York City ever recover from the bloody turf wars? Or would the scars of the violence continue to haunt the city for years to come? That's it for tonight. We hope you enjoyed our look at the bloody turf wars of 1920s New York City. Don't forget to tune in next week for another exciting episode. See you then. Goodbye.